Welcome, Sens Talk.
He scores! He bats it in! Tim Stutzler wins it for Ottawa! Triple Grant is going to put the finishing touches on an Ottawa win. See you later. Go Sens, go!
Welcome back to Sens Talk. My name is Brandon Plant and I am your host. We are back with yet some more breaking news as steady Steve Staios is not steady. He's hitting home runs, baby, as the Ottawa Senators have acquired Fabian Zetterlund. Oh my goodness. This came at the last second, literally at 2:59. Gary and all the big reporters were reporting this. Fabian Zetterlund, welcome to Ottawa. Welcome to the nation's capital. Welcome to Canada, as he's brought in from San Jose, along with Tristan Robbins and a fourth rounder for Zack, Ostapchuk, Gregor, and Ottawa's 2025 second round selection. I love this trade. My goodness. It took me a bit of time to come around to the Dylan Cousins move and be like, all right, well, in terms of 5-on-5 play, which we'll talk about in this video, clearly was a target goal for the Ottawa Senators to improve on this deadline, which you'll see with Zetterlund. But it took me a bit of time to come around with that. But again, with the 5-on-5 play, you could start to understand it. Right away, I knew this was an absolute steal. An absolute steal for the Ottawa Senators. And that's no disrespect to Zack Ostapchuk or Noah Gregor. But you just traded two fourth-line guys for a top six, 20-plus goal-scoring winger with control. He's back next year. He's an RFA. He will be back. So this is not a rental. So for a year and a half at the very minimum, you get a young, speedy, skilled, heavy-hitting, for his size especially at 5'11", winger that go next to Tim Stützle for two fourth-liners, one of which is in Belleville, or was in Belleville until this trade. Whoa. I mean, people were calling to fire Steve Staios literally a few hours ago before we had all the details on the Cousins and Josh Norris trade. Where are you at now? I would not fire this guy. That, in my opinion, might be one of the best trades Steve Staios will ever pull off. And that's no disrespect to Zack Ostapchuk, who will be an absolute solid NHL guy. But he rounds out to be a third-line guy. Okay, so not as high of a ceiling as Zetterlund, who, again, young, but to hit the prime of his NHL career, already proven that he can score 20-plus goals. And then you talk about Noah Gregor. Well, I mean, free agent at the end of the year, fourth-line fringe guy. I love the Grey Goat. Love the Grey Goat. Fun nickname, but other than speed, it doesn't really bring much to the team. And then a 2025 second-round pick. I'm glad we didn't have to give up the one we got from Buffalo today in that Cousins trade. It's a 2026 second-round pick. I just think if Ottawa, at the very least, if they miss the playoffs somehow, it will be a late second-rounder regardless because of where we are in the standings, I'm assuming. Depends on how the lottery goes. But let's just not get there. Because, again, if we make the playoffs, then that pick is especially late. Compared to Buffalo's, who I would imagine anyway should be a solid top 40, top 50 pick next year. And speaking of top 50 picks, Tristan Robbins was a 56 overall. Yeah, it took me a second. I thought it was 52nd. 56 overall selection by San Jose in 2020. So that's the other piece coming back to Ottawa. So basically, he's going to replace Ostapchuk and his loss, especially there in Belleville, because Robbins is a fine AHL player with some NHL upside, I suppose. He has played a few NHL games. We'll talk about him later in the video, but obviously not the main centerpiece of this trade. The main centerpiece is Fabian Zetterlund, who's an absolute stud. And again, this trade's an absolute steal for the Ottawa Senators. I don't say that often. I do not say that often immediately like that for trade reaction videos. And I think, again, Zetterlund's agent, before I recorded this video, it was put out saying that they were going back and forth on an extension. They didn't like the offer. Maybe that's why this is why he got dealt to Ottawa, that being Zetterlund. So again, we'll have to see what happens with that. Obviously, an RFA negotiation, he's not going to go anywhere. But a long-term extension, that's something we'll have to wait and see. But again, you are getting a guy that will be here for a year plus. And then again, like I was originally saying, for San Jose, Ostapchuk, that's a solid player for a young team like San Jose. A third-line energy guy. I think he has a bit more offense to give. So hopefully he can develop that in San Jose, whether if that's with the Barracuda or with the San Jose Sharks. But I think, Yeah, I think the firefighters here in Ottawa are fired up about this too. Let's go, boys. But yeah, so Ostapchuk, solid piece for San Jose. And again, with my original point, if they thought they were losing Zetterlund soon anyways, you get a guy at least for him. But, I mean, he's an RFA. He would have been able to stay for another year. Don't really understand this for San Jose. It feels like a rushed move. But they also get a roster filler guy like Gregor, who you never know, maybe finds a fit there in San Jose. And then, you get a second rounder in 2025, which that's a solid piece for San Jose, a rebuilding team, a top 60 piece in this year's draft. Certainly not bad. But again, for Ottawa, you're giving up 2 fourth liners and a second rounder for a top 6 guy that should be here for a long time, in my opinion, with the cap going up especially. Before I get into Zetterlund's stats, I just want to mention that Ostapchuk this year has played 43 games, his first full year in the NHL, 4 points, including a goal, 50 career NHL games, of course, only 4 total points. All his points came this year. And then for Noah Gregor, this is your more experienced player getting back if you're a San Jose fan watching this. I believe he also played for San Jose before. Let me double check this. His first games in the NHL were with San Jose, so a bit of a homecoming for him. He was drafted by them as well in the 2016 draft. This year, 6 points, 4 goals for Ottawa in his NHL career, 281 games, 69 points, 36 of which were goals. So again, solid player. Definitely can sign him for cheap for another year, and for a rebuilding team, it doesn't hurt to have an NHL body that can produce a bit, bring some speed and whatnot. But again, for Ottawa, and even for San Jose, again, I really don't understand the rush to trade a guy like Fabian Zetterlund when he's an RFA on team control for a while. So, hey, I'm not complaining, I'll tell you that much. And Zetterlund is due for a big payday. He makes just under $1.5 million right now on the cap. So he fits perfectly within our cap right now. So there's no salary retained in this deal, by the way. But for Zetterlund, this is a guy that should probably make between $4 to $5 million on his next contract in a year from now. Remember that. So not this summer, next summer. So by that time, the cap will go up by nearly $5 to $10 million. This will be much easier to absorb. So in the meantime, you probably sign him for a 1-year deal at $3 million or so. Pay him by a nice little pay increase there at double what he was making this year. Don't think he'll argue with that. Then you can sign him for 4 to 5 for a bit of a longer term deal, similar to like Drake Batherson's deal right now. In the near future next summer. So this just lines up perfectly with the Ottawa Senators, their cap situation, and their team needs. Now, Zetterlund this year, 64 games, averaging just under 17 minutes of ice time per game, with 17 goals and 36 total points, 115 hits as well, okay? I mean, the guy can throw around the body nearly 2 hits per game for a guy at 5'11", very impressive. Also 63 blocks in those 64 games, so roughly a block per game as well. Now, as I already said, he's 5'11", he's 25 years old, so a little bit on the shorter end compared to what you're used to from the Ottawa Senators. They like their big body guys, but he plays like a big body guy, so I love to see that. Again, 25 years old as well, so he's going to enter the prime of his NHL career. And as I already said multiple times, the cap situation and the situation for him on the ice, perfect for the Ottawa Senators and their needs. Now, Ottawa is getting a guy that can desperately help their 5-on-5 play and their scoring. You know, we saw that with Dylan Cousins as one of the main reasons as to why the Ottawa Senators brought him in. He's purely just a better 5-on-5 scorer than Josh Norris. I mean, he had more than double the 5-on-5 points. The same thing could be said here with Fabian Zetterlund, who this year has 27 points at 5-on-5. With Cousins and Zetterlund brought in, Ottawa now has new second and third ranked 5-on-5 scorers, okay? Stützle has 30, Tkachuk has 20, Zetterlund has 27, and Cousins has 24. So suddenly Ottawa has become a far more well-rounded team as a whole. They can still score on the power play. Zetterlund can definitely contribute on the power play with that electric shot. But more so, this is a guy that will help with Cousins make the Ottawa Senators a much more well-rounded offensive team where they don't have to rely on the power plays. They don't have to rely on the top guys to consistently get the scoring. They have a much more well-balanced team that can score in all situations, which is key for any team to be successful, especially like, of course, your Ottawa Senators, who were 30th going into the trade deadline for goals in 5-on-5. So that's massive. Now, Zetterlund is one of only 6 forwards in the league this year with 30 points, 50 blocks, and 100 hits. So, this is such an Ottawa Senator player. This is such an Ottawa Senator player. I'm fired up about this. I'm fired up. I don't know if you think I'm going a little too crazy, but I'm fired up because that was an emotional trade with Cousins and Norris. I finally got around to it, but I was always thinking to myself, well, we still need a score. Did the needle move that much this deadline? Did we get better? Arguably yes, arguably no. Now we absolutely did. A-plus home run, grand slam move by slugger Steve Staios, no doubt about it. And again, just such an Ottawa Senator player. Again, 30 points, 50 blocks, 100 hits, one of only 6 players in the NHL this year to do so. Chef's kiss. And again, look, plus minus is not everything, but it does say something when you're the leading plus guy. When getting like nearly 19 minutes of ice time a game, when you're one of the top players for San Jose on a very bad Sharks team. He's a +8, leads the Sharks in that department, and one of the only 2 Sharks players with a plus minus differential. So that kind of just shows all you need to know. But Zetterlund, he's a guy that can put the puck in your net, and the puck will not go in the net when he's on the ice more often than not. Now, he's also a guy that can draw power plays. He has 41 drawn penalties compared to taking 27 total penalties in his NHL career. So that's another guy with that speed and that skill will get guys to cheat and, of course, be able to draw penalties because they're cheating. So this is just such an electric acquisition for the Ottawa Senators. Tim Stützle finally gets the winger he's been desperately looking for. And that top 6, which we'll talk about in a second here. Woo! That is so sexy, man. That is so sexy. Now, before I talk about the top 6, Tristan Robbins is also part of this trade. He's a 23-year-old center/right winger from Great Britain. He's a Canadian/English prospect. So this is a former second-round pick. 41 games this year in the AHL, 18 points, 7 goals. In 149 career AHL games, 31 goals, 43 assists for 74 total points. So again, a body that can fill that absence now that we're missing from Ostapchuk. In his first career AHL year, he had like nearly a point every 2 games. So this is a guy that, look, is he going to be an NHLer? Probably not. He's a fringe NHL guy that can fill in for a few games if necessary, but is a guy that can help produce there in Belleville and help the prospects in Belleville continue to develop in a very good way. Again, you need guys there in Belleville that can play and actually produce and make the team a competitive one. And Robbins is certainly one of those players. And again, he's only 23. So he's definitely has some room to grow, and you never know. Maybe he turns into something. He has played NHL games before. He's a former high draft pick, so he clearly has that skill. We'll just have to wait and see. In the WHL, this is a while ago, but in the WHL, he was more than a point-per-game player as well. So clearly has those offensive abilities. Now, last thing I'll mention, Zetterlund, Timmy, Giroux, line 1. Brady, Cousins, Batherson, line 2. Sounds pretty good to me. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below about that. I'm a fan of that. I think Zetterlund has to go with Tim Stützle. I think Giroux would be perfect with those 2 as well. I think the possession numbers on that line would be off the charts. And then that second line, Batherson plays a much heavier game than people give him credit for. But Cousins and Tkachuk, those are horses, you know what I mean? So I think it just makes sense to put those guys together as well. They play such similar games. I think they'd be able to bounce off one another. And then again as well, for that second line or first line, however you're looking at it, Batherson's that pure goal scorer there. So, wow. Just got to give a round of applause to Steve Staios. I mean, a lot of people, as I already said in this video, are skeptical at the beginning of the day with the Cousins for Norris trade. I think a lot of us, including myself, I mean, I wasn't calling for Steve Staios' head. I was definitely confused at the beginning. I see the chaos. I see the method in the chaos now, and what a great trade for the Ottawa Senators. That, again, helps us now, helps us next year, and hopefully, if we get this guy locked up long-term, which I hope we do, for the foreseeable future. The Ottawa Senators just got that more nasty. The Ottawa Senators got exactly what they need. A goal scorer on the wing for Tim Stützle. And the Ottawa Senators, with Cousins, Gilbert, and Fabian Zetterlund brought in, are ready to make not only a push for the Stanley Cup playoffs, but if they get there, for the Stanley Cup. Now with that, let me know what you think in the comment section down below. As always, I'll see you all soon. Go Sens, go.